Happy Friday. Y'all heard I was about to play that. I was about to play the song. Let me actually go to a different one. A little more upbeat today, man. Let me make sure that the mic is coming through correct. Testing. Mic check. Make sure as you join that you're liking and subscribing if you haven't already. We got a great show for y'all today. We're going to talk about an interesting Nick Fuentes take. We're going to talk about an interesting Nick Fuentes take on the transgender shooting. We're going to talk about Trump. We got RFK Jr. We're going to talk about the whole situation with this, perhaps the next mayor of New York, Mamdani. We actually haven't touched on him a bit, and we're going to go over the interview that Patrick Bet-David did with Bibi Netanyahu. So as you're joining, like, subscribe. We got a dope show for y'all today. The first video that we're going to get into is the one on Nick Fuentes, and then we'll see where we go from there. We'll see if we need a break. If we need a break to kind of ease it up a little bit. I think it's going to be an interesting take. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with what his feelings on that situation were. Let me make sure that I'm turning this down to make sure that y'all can hear me. Let's check out the chat. Bubby Bub in the building. Morning, happy Friday. Big bro, the one and only Steve is in the building. Morning, y'all, happy Friday. We got everybody's favorite Unk in the building. Grand rising to all. Good morning, people. How y'all doing today? It's a holiday weekend. Please be, it's a holiday weekend. So people are off today. Oh, it's a holiday weekend, so please be safe. But like, and subscribe. Share with your friends, constituents, and gang. Hold on, is that what he wrote? Oh, that's somebody else wrote Kang. So yeah, actually, y'all do me a favor. Share this group chat with a friend, or share this video with your group chat. Let's get as many people in the building. There's no excuses today. It's a holiday weekend. People have off. All right, so let me hold on. I gotta change it. I just realized it's coming through weird in the back. Hold on, let me adjust this camera. But I can do two things at once. Shout out to Pascal Maruski in the building. Kang. I don't know what that means. Hopefully I'm not saying anything crazy. Dayam Mayon. Hopefully I'm not saying anything too crazy. Amberly Rose, I've been enjoying the reaction videos. Hope you have a great weekend. Amberly, appreciate that. All right, so if y'all aren't familiar, so shout out to, let me turn that light off. So shout out to Amberly. So what Amberly's referring to, a lot of people that tune into the live show may not be aware. So hold on, let me turn this off in the background. We don't need all that. So I just got into Nick Fuentes. I think we've played him on this show a couple times. I think when Jason Whitlock was commenting and referencing or connecting what Nick Fuentes said regarding the Austin Metcalf, Carmelo Anthony situation, and he referred it to what Jesse Jackson had said either in the late 80s or early 90s. That's the first time that I believe that we watched him. And then we maybe watched a couple videos here and there over the last maybe month or so. I then did like this deep dive into him, started watching his videos, and I had an epiphany. When I couldn't find a lot of his videos on YouTube, and I had to go to Rumble, and even then, it was just, I do most of my stuff on YouTube. It just is what it is. And I was like, yo, the first thing that my takeaway was, this is a lot different. Nick Fuentes is a lot different than what was being presented to me. That was my first takeaway. And I was like, at first I was like, well, maybe the first video. And then I watched the second video. And then you'll hear him drop the N-bomb. And you'll be like, oh, this is what people were talking about. But as I was watching it, even as he said it, I'm going to be totally honest. I wasn't as bothered as perhaps people as perhaps what liberals tell me how much I should be bothered by. I wasn't bothered by it. I kind of just laughed at it. Like, bro is bugging. Like like he's just saying it so like it wasn't. It didn't come across to me. That's to me. Maybe I'm an Uncle Tom. I don't know. Whatever words. Whatever. It didn't come across as offensive to me. I'm over the whole allowing words to impact me. And another thing, when somebody I let my guard down, perhaps in situations where people would like do the opposite. See, most people let their guard down when people are telling them nice things about themselves, right? The Democrats, the liberals, they're telling us, hey, it's not your fault that you're at the bottom of American society. It's not your fault. It's slavery. Let's blame slavery. We need social programs. We need all that. That's when my guard is raised. Like, why are you pacifying me? Why are you trying to get me to embrace this level of victimhood? With people who just come out and say stuff that clearly doesn't seem as if you're trying to appeal to me, you're not trying to sell me on something, you're just saying it is what it is. Not that I agree with him on everything. And I think I've expressed that, especially when it came to the Candace Owens interview that he did, the things that I was bringing up. So neither here nor there. We already discussed that. But I started to sit here. So my guard, I was automatically like, yo, let me keep listening. Let me keep listening. And bro was making sense. He was making sense. And as he admits, some of his stuff, especially on his live show, is performative. Cool, whatever, neither here nor there. And I realized, I was like, hold up. Most people have a preconceived opinion of him that's based on what everybody else has said about him. He's called an anti-Semite. He's called a racist. This kid can't get a bank account. Like, nobody will bank with him. This kid started doing this at 17 years old. He's only 27 years old, and he's one of the most influential people, especially when you look at kids between the age of 15 and 25. And now the older people are starting to get in tune with him. And now you have different cultures that he supposedly offends on a regular basis, who are now starting to check him out. And they're formulating a totally different opinion on him. So I started looking for his videos on YouTube, and I'm like, yo, why can't I find any of his long form videos? So, of course, when I was meditating in the steam room, I was sitting there. I was like, you know what? What's next? I started, I don't know about y'all, but I used the steam room sauna to meditate. And I was trying to figure out, like I always do on, every week or so, you get to that moment where you're like, yo, what am I doing? Like, what's going on? Am I moving in the right direction? Is this the thing? Am I leaning into this? Especially when the end of the month approaches, or the beginning of the month, I should say, when you start getting to pay all these bills and you're like, yo, you putting a lot of time, effort, and energy into this. Is this what we doing? I've probably asked myself, and you could ask Maya, I've probably asked myself this over and over. And every time it's a short answer. It's a it's a question and then a short answer. Yep, lean in. Yep, lean in. Keep leaning in. Trust the process. All this stuff, right? That's the walk by faith, right? So it came to me. I said, yo, I'm about to start doing long form videos with Nick Fuentes. I'm going to do a show with Nick Fuentes. And how do I do a show with Nick Fuentes? I jump on with Nick Fuentes, review his videos, and a lot of it is removing. I realize that, of course, in this situation, you got to understand who the people are there to see, right? You got to understand who the people are there to see. So if they see Nick Fuentes alongside me, chances are most people are going to be there to see Nick Fuentes. So I allow him to, not allow him to, but I play the video for Nick Fuentes, share his thoughts and opinions, a lot of them for the first time that I'm hearing, and I'm reacting, for the first time to a lot of this stuff. And it's wild. And I realize that a lot of people, especially somebody like me that looks like me, they're not expecting, I don't know, maybe they're not expecting me to have the reaction to a lot of his stuff the way that I do. And I just started doing those videos. And I can remember, I think it was Monday. It was either Monday or Tuesday when I did maybe like the second video or the first video. And the first video, after a few hours, it hit like 6,000 views. And just being totally transparent with y'all, I had been looking at the views of the videos, because usually what we do is we do the live show and then we clip out the live show. When I was putting the videos up, for some reason, my numbers were going down. This is what it is. Cool. My numbers were going down and it would hit like 10 views, 20 views, 30 views. And here I'm sitting here like, damn, we got almost 18,000 subscriptions. Like, how is it only hitting, like, accidentally you would tap on the video? I mean, I think you have to watch it for a certain point, certain length for it to be counted as a view, but I just couldn't make sense. I'm like, all right, whatever. But I just kept to it. I'm like, you know what? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's more about putting out the information. It's more about, for me, how I look at communicating with y'all on this show. Perhaps it's a bit different than how other people look at it, and to each their own. But I look at this is my Bible. You know what I mean? This is my story. This is the blueprint that I'm going to leave behind for my kids, for whoever's interested. I want them to know exactly how I was thinking in real time. And when I have kids, knock on wood, got to make that happen. This is the blueprint that I'm leaving behind. I don't want it to be left up in the air. What was Pops thinking? What was Granddaddy thinking? What was whatever you are to me. I want you to be able to go back, watch my videos, see exactly the things that I said wrong that you may have thought, and the reasons why, give some context, all these different things. This is why this is important for me. This is the legacy that I'm leaving behind. This is the communication. So for me, this is my Bible. So I don't even know where I was going with that, but let me kind of bring it back to what happened on Monday. So on Monday, I put up the first video and it got like 6,000 views. And I was like, yo, I called Maya up and I'm like, yo, I think this month, I think we could hit like 100,000 views for the month. So then she was like, cool. I was telling her what happened. And I was, looking stuff up on YouTube, boom, boom, boom. And I was like, yeah, we could, see how much YouTube's going to pay us for that, whatever. So as the day goes by, I'm just reviewing the videos, right? I'm reviewing them, recording. So I'm not really paying attention to the actual video that I already posted. So then as I go back, I'm seeing all these alerts, like all these comments that I have. And that's going from like 6,000 to 8,000 to 15,000 to 20,000. And I'm like, yo, I'm hitting her up like, yo, forget 100,000 in a month. Like, we finna hit that today. So I put up a couple videos and literally we hit like 100,000 views that day. And I was just really surprised with the comments, or not really surprised with the comments. I kind of figured that people that it would be perhaps refreshing for some people, because we get so torn apart and usually isolate ourselves. And the isolation of choice for us nowadays is race, right? With all the race baiting, it's this group versus that group. Oh, black people are going to blame white people. This group is going to blame this group, this religious group against that group. It's usually based on race and religion. And when I was reviewing a lot of the videos with Nick Fuentes, when I removed all of the, the rhetoric that people typically get offended with, and I just was processing the information, I'm sitting here and I'm like, yo, like, I agree with most of this. And not only do I agree with most of this, but I was actually blown away the fact that he's only, I think, 27 or 26 years old, 27 years old, maybe getting ready to turn 28. And y'all have heard me talk about Candace Owens in the past with how impressed I am with her. I think Candace Owens is only like 34, 35. Like, when I first found out that Candace Owens was younger than me, I was just impressed. I was impressed of her passion, how she communicates, different ability. I almost look at it like I was looking at Nick Fuentes videos and I'm like, damn, like, yo, like how people were looking at LeBron James, like, yo, how is he so young and dominating this much? And then I started looking into it even more. And I'm like, why are all these other political commentators, these podcasters, scared to talk to him? Why won't Pierce Morgan have him on the show? Why won't Tucker Carlson have a conversation with him? Why Candace Owens had the conversation and it was a little bit of a different type of Candace Owens show, whatever. Why won't Patrick Bet-David? Why won't all these people? Patrick Bet-David's response was, oh, he uses the N-word. And I realized that people were just trying to come up with whatever excuse they could in order to not have him on the platform. And it was real like Andrew Tate-ish at the time. I remember I was late on Andrew Tate. And then, I heard all these people talking bad about him. And then when I finally watched him, I'm like, Like, I don't get what the problem is. Y'all are bringing up all this stuff from his past, but do you disagree with what he's saying right now? And to be totally honest, this was one of the first people since, Andrew Tate obviously having the recognition. I believe at this point he was the #1 Google person in the world. And when I compare Andrew Tate to Nick Fuentes, Andrew Tate is my guy, right? I hold him as far as like just how he communicates, all these different things. Nick Fuentes is in a totally different stratosphere. A totally different stratosphere. And for one, I didn't know he's not like an impressive looking guy as far as like, Andrew Tate's got the muscles, got the cars and all this stuff. This kid is just sitting behind a desk, just speaking. And he's saying the things that everybody else is scared to speak of. So I started to notice certain contradictions as far as how he was presented to me. It's like, oh, he's the racist. And then I started to look at, oh, he's calling out Israel on a whole bunch of stuff. What happens when you call out Israel on a whole bunch of stuff? A lot of times they're going to label you as a racist anti-Semite. Now they're trying to convince the black people that he's a racist too. So you won't even actually check out his videos. So I said, long story short, to bring it back, shout out to Nick Fuentes. We've been doing a show together for the last week, and literally the followers, I think we've gained like just in the last 3 days, maybe like 6,000 followers, 6,000 subscribers. And it's dope. And bigger than the subscribers, it's actually the comments that really just like boost me up a little bit. The whole hype me up. Yeah, hype me up. The comments are what's hyping me up, because I'm sitting here and I'm like, yo, I'm just thinking that they just here to see Nick. Let me not, feel myself at all a little bit. This ain't about me. This is about Nick, which it is. But every once in a while I'll get a comment like from Amberly, and it'll have something there, and I'll be like, yo, like they not only commented about Nick, but they appreciated the commentary that I was giving, the feedback. And so, yeah, it's just business is booming. That's what I say. I say all that to say business is booming. And what's amazing about it is now a lot of the Groypers, his followers, they can come over here, build with us, have these conversations that all of us don't always agree, right? But we get more people in the building to engage in these type of conversations, this type of dialogue. And that's the only way that we're going to grow. And it's funny because I think last week we talked about, I think there was a quick conversation just about when we have these conversations, one of the most important things is to think about when I'm talking to somebody in my family, friend group, whoever, when I'm listening to somebody online, but this was more about the personal relationships that we have, is reminding ourselves, what is this person's goal? This person that I'm arguing with, let me remind myself that they actually, I believe they're a good person and they have good intent. We just have different ways of perhaps accomplishing a problem or accomplishing a solution to a problem that we both understand it's a problem, but we just have different ways of getting there. So neither here nor there. Shout out to Dan. Yo, y'all really boosting your boy. Yo, this is dope. This is dope. And yeah, so that's what it is. So I'm gonna continue to be pushing out a lot of those videos. I've probably been getting like 3 hours of sleep every night this week, just making sure that I'm staying up and just getting y'all the videos, editing. Y'all know we got a small team over here. We got a small team as far as producing the content, researching the content, editing the content, putting out the content. It's a small team over here, but it just is what it is. So we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep pushing. So without me rambling, because that's one of the comments that they like the most, where it's like, yo, you just let Nick talk. You don't be doing too much. I literally just take my notes, let him talk for about 10 minutes, and then I just go through my notes, what I agree with, what I disagree with, what my perspective is, and we go from there, because that's what the people want. So it is what it is. So make sure you like, subscribe if you haven't already, turn your notifications on. Let's get into this first video that I was referring to with Nick Fuentes. I'm probably going to have a similar process to this video that I do on the reviews that I've been doing with him. I'll chime in every once in a while. Bear with me if you're used to seeing those videos. I do chime in more on the live show just because it's more interactive and whatnot. bear with me. I'm gonna let him speak because I just I think when we have influential people in society, whether we agree with them, disagree with them, whether we're told they're hateful people, whatever it is, I think that it's very important for us to formulate our own opinion and do our own independent investigation on the situation, because what ends up happening, we typically get manipulated by the people that do hear the message, or maybe they don't even hear the full message, but they formulate their opinion and then push their opinions on us. And then we formulate these monolithic thoughts and we're all thinking the same thing and we're all aligned with the same thing. And before you know it, we're just marching like sheep, pushing somebody else's agenda rather than what's beneficial for us. So this transgender shooting, I'm gonna let Nick talk. Give me about 10 more seconds. A lot of people after this transgender shooting in Minneapolis, you know, you had the Democrats, they were saying like, oh, see, it's gun control. Then you had all the conservatives and Republicans that were saying, see, it's these trans issues. This was Nick Fuentes' takeaway. So you guys, I'm officially muting myself. Not really, but I'll see y'all in a second. Let me make sure we got this up here. All right, y'all know where I'll be. I'll be over here. Shout out to Amberly again. Let's go.
Mass migration or racism in itself. It's not somebody like a left-wing terrorist talking about Ukraine or Trump. What is contained in the pages of the manifesto, if you've read any of it, and I read through a significant portion of it, what's contained in the manifesto is just idolization of mass killers and fantasizing about violence. It doesn't even talk about transgenderism. It doesn't even talk about the person's transgender identity. It's not even biographical. From what I read, didn't even go into detail about the person's own psychological state, pain, or suffering. To the extent that we can glean anything from the writings, what it says is that he was convinced that he had lung cancer from vaping, which is a histrionic, paranoid. This is symptomatic of the delusional mindset. He was convinced that he had lung cancer based on, no diagnosis, attributed it to vaping, and said that he would die no matter what soon. And what accompanied this was a fixation and obsession with school shootings, acts of mass violence, and his ideations and fantasies about carrying one out himself. And in the writings, he goes back and forth. Should he do it? He'd like to do it, but he doesn't want to hurt his family. He'd like to do it, but he doesn't want to give up his life. And it seems that somewhere in the writing, he says, well, I'm going to die from lung cancer anyway, so I have to do this last thing. He also writes a note to his family and apologizes to them and addresses some family matters and things like that. Now, the reason that I talk about what is specific in the writing is to understand exactly what kind of violence this is, because not all murder is created equal. When we conventionally think of a murder, we think about people that get murdered in the pursuance of another crime, like a burglary, like a robbery. We think about a murder in the context of passion of or crime of passion. Heat of the moment, you find your wife sleeping with another man, you kill them both. You get in a drunken dispute with a friend, a neighbor, someone that's been causing you problems, you kill him. Some altercation that escalates. I mean, this is what we think of murder. But then you have mass killings. And even there, not all killings are created equal. I would not even classify this as terrorism. And some people might say, well, why? Because he's a white male? No. Because when you look at the definition of terrorism, terrorism has a political objective. So when a right-wing person carries out an act of terrorism against a mosque, it's a political act with a political agenda to instill fear and terror in the furtherance of a political agenda, a clearly stated, defined in the manifesto, a political agenda. When a left-wing person, like the Weather Underground, blows up a building, same thing. When a Muslim, like bin Laden, according to the nominal example, carries out a terror attack, it's in the furtherance of the Palestinian cause or, freeing Saudi Arabia from American occupation, whatever. And then you have this. And I think that when you look at Sandy Hook with Adam Lanza, when you look at this, when you look at these types of killings, that senator in Arizona who got shot, the Aurora, Colorado shooting, these are, and we'll talk about the words we use, but these are crazy people, evil people. They get a gun and they go into a crowd and they just start shooting.
I want to stop there and then fast forward. I wanted y'all to hear that part, and then we're going to fast forward to 3:29:10. I'm not going to comment, but we got to get through everything. So listen to this.
Apology presented. This is not the rantings of somebody talking about, like Elliot Rodger, talking about women. It's not somebody talking about like the Buffalo shooter or like the Christchurch shooting, mass migration or racism in itself. It's not somebody like a left-wing terrorist talking about Ukraine or Trump. What is contained in the pages of the manifesto, if you've read any of it, and I read through a significant portion of it, what's contained in the manifesto is just idolization of mass killers and fantasizing about violence. It doesn't even talk about transgenderism. It doesn't even talk about the person's transgender identity. It's not even biographical. From what I read, didn't even go into detail about the person's own psychological state, pain, or suffering. To the extent that we can glean anything from the writings, what it says is that he was convinced that he had lung cancer from vaping, which is a histrionic, paranoid. This is symptomatic of the delusional mindset. He was convinced that he had lung cancer based on, no diagnosis, attributed it to vaping, and said that he would die no matter what soon. And what accompanied this was a fixation and obsession with school shootings, acts of mass violence, and his ideations and fantasies about carrying one out himself. And in the writings, he goes back and forth. Should he do it? He'd like to do it, but he doesn't want to hurt his family. He'd like to do it, but he doesn't want to give up his life. And it seems that somewhere in the writing, he says, well, I'm going to die from lung cancer anyway, so I have to do this last thing. He also writes a note to his family and apologizes to them and addresses some family matters and things like that. Now, the reason that I talk about what is specific in the writing is to understand exactly what kind of violence this is, because not all murder is created equal. When we conventionally think of a murder, we think about people that get murdered in the pursuance of another crime, like a burglary, like a robbery. We think about a murder in the context of passion of or crime of passion.
Sorry about that. I know I played some of this.
In the furtherance
it
of
wasn't
a political
showing up on
agenda, a clearly stated, defined in the manifesto, a political agenda. When a left-wing person, like the Weather Underground, blows up a building, same thing. When a Muslim, like bin Laden, according to the nominal example, carries out a terror attack, it's in the furtherance of the Palestinian cause or, freeing Saudi Arabia from American occupation, whatever. And then you have this. And I think that when you look at Sandy Hook with Adam Lanza, when you look at this, when you look at these types of killings, that senator in Arizona who got shot, the Aurora, Colorado shooting, these are, and we'll talk about the words we use, but these are crazy people, evil people. They get a gun and they go into a crowd and they just start shooting. I don't classify that, strictly speaking, as terrorism. I would say that is a unique postmodern form, hyper-real form of nihilistic antisocial violence. The violence is against society as a whole. And to the extent that this person is trying to create a war of all against all, you could say it's satanic in nature, it's satanic terrorism. But this looks to me like antisocial violence. Somebody who is sadistic, a sociopath, antisocial, clearly has layers of personality disorders, mental illness, delusions, carrying out an attack against society as a whole. And I think that's a unique category of violence. It's not properly stated as a left-wing terrorism. People say, well, he wrote F Trump on his gun. This had nothing to do with his feelings about Trump. His manifesto is not about Trump. It's not about Republicans. It's not about right and left. His manifesto is about sadism. His manifesto is about violence for its own sake. Glorification of violence, taking pleasure in suffering and sadism, inflicting the interior pain on society. That's clear. It's a psychological, spiritual motivation. That's what this is. And to the extent that we look at the target, some people said it was an attack on Catholics. That's possible. It's where he went to school. It's where his mother worked. Could it be that this is a place that is deeply personal to him? I don't think the significance is lost on him. If this person is demonically possessed, this person had a shooting target in his bedroom with a picture of Jesus at the head. So clearly, and there's upside down crosses on his gun, saw himself as demonically influenced. Clearly, this is someone that, whether consciously or unconsciously, is in the clutches of the devil. Of course, who does the devil hate? The church, Christ. So unconsciously or consciously, however much that factored in, I don't think that you could say it's a political attack on Catholics. If anything, it's a spiritual attack. If anything, it's not, I hate Catholics because Catholics are against trannies. That's where he went to school, that's where his mom was, and the devil placed him there, under the influence of the devil. Where does a sadistic person that glorifies violence and suffering for its own sake, where is he drawn to commit his evil actions? The church, where the sacraments happen, the house of God, of course. It's a spiritual, not a political, not even necessarily a religious motivation. Under the influence of a supernatural force is brought there. And the symptoms are an embrace of leftism. The symptoms are an embrace of political extremism. The symptoms are transgenderism, these disordered behaviors and tendencies that he gave himself over to. And anyway, so that to me is what this looks like. That's what this is. And if you look at these cases, look at the case of Jeffrey or Jennifer Ruppnow in Madison, Wisconsin, Solomon Henderson in Antioch, Tennessee, they look exactly the same. Read the manifesto. It is an obsession and a worship of the Columbine shooters, of Anders Breivik, of Dylan Roof. Violence for its own sake, violence for its own evil purposes. And to me, that's what this is. If anything could be called a spiritual war, that's what this is. And don't get me wrong. When I look at something like leftism, when I look at something like feminism, transgenderism, I see the demonic and the diabolical at work. But this is distilled diabolical. This is distilled malevolence. This is it at its core. Stripping away the ideological pretenses that guide people toward the diabolical, under the premise of false compassion, more sentiment than truth, lack of truth and charity. And people are drawn towards things which are evil under a false pretense, which may appear good, but is in reality disordered and evil. This is evil in its pure form. Strip away the cause of transgenderism, anti-Trump, left-wing politics, whatever you want to say, inside the manifesto is just a worship of violence and suffering. That's what this is. And so I see everybody on Twitter on the conservative side is racing to say, well, it's a transgender killing. This is what happens when you pump kids full of And don't get me wrong. Do I sort of see the argument? Of course. It is obviously true that transgenders and homosexuals too. Huge coincidence of personality disorders and mental illness. And everybody knows this on some level. Depressives, bipolar, antisocial personality disorders, mental illness, schizophrenia, it all goes with the territory. And that's why we always see these meltdowns. That's why we always see when trannies are out and they get misgendered, That's why we see them melting down, because these are not mentally stable people.
All right, real quick, I just want to chime in on certain things that he said. Transgender, and I'm not sure if he said this already. He may have said it early in the show, but he said that transgender is an expression of mental illness. Now, what I've noticed just in observing maybe family, friends, whoever, people that may identify as transgender, people that have those questions, is that parents don't necessarily know how to confront that. Parents are either, let's say that a parent confronts a kid who's transgender, then they push back naturally, just like most kids push back when they're confronted. We don't necessarily look at that kid as just a call for help. Like, hey, clearly this kid is going through something where it's almost, they're screaming for help. But when a parent pushes back on the kid, what typically happens? The kid just bites in harder, right? It's like most of us when we struggle with certain things, when we get called out on it, even though we want somebody that's going to help save us from it and we're screaming for help, a lot of times we'll continue to lean into it. So then parents have a decision. Do I take the risk of still pushing my kid, even though now I may be a little bit nervous of my kid, how they may react if they're unstable? So now I just want to, just let me just create a comfortable environment for my kid to just, however they are, just to be, so I don't offend them. So then what sometimes may happen is they continue to go down this path, they continue to lean into it. But because we're not allowed to look at transgenderism as a mental health issue, we can identify any and everything else as a mental health issue. But for some reason, when it comes to a kid growing up as a boy and thinking they're a girl or vice versa, we can never do that. So therefore, we just pretty much just lay out the red carpet for them. We feed into it. Oh, you feel like a boy? Oh, you could dress. You feel like a girl? You could dress like a girl. You could do all these things. And in actuality, in my opinion, they're screaming for help. Perhaps this is the reason why they have higher suicide rates. Perhaps this is the reason why they're acting and behaving in certain ways that we used to just think is like, yo, that's just crazy. Like, yo, you're bugging, you're tripping. But now we're accepting it because we're living in such more of a liberal democratic society where we don't want to offend anybody and we accept everything. We accept obesity, body positivity, all these other things. To me, what we're doing is just leaning into the things that are bad for people because we don't want to offend them. Whether it's obesity, whether it's mental health with transgenderism, all these different things, we think we're doing people a favor. And in all actuality, we're not, in my opinion. But let's keep going.
These are people that they initiate a process of stopping the natural sexual development. These are people that initiate the process of getting on hormones and surgeries. And on the other side of the hormone treatments, the pills and the surgeries, they're even more deranged. They're deranged enough to start walking and taking one step after another down that path, embracing something disordered. And then when it turns into the drugs and the surgeries and the sexual proclivities, which are, they only get more and more debased, then they're fully deranged. Then they're fully Frankenstein's monster. And so don't get me wrong, I see that. And the idea that you take a child and put them on SSRIs, you take a child that may have a mental or personality disorder, and then you give them drugs, then you give in to their delusions, you can understand, of course, what they're saying. But I think that it's important to isolate these issues out. Transgenderism is an expression of mental illness. There are not a ton of people that are becoming transgender because they're just transgender. They're not becoming transgender because it's being popularized. They're becoming transgender because they're mentally ill. And this is one of the things that they glom onto. Just like in other times, they glommed onto other things. Alcoholism, addiction. They go down these other bad pathways. And so the question is concerning the order of it. Does transgenderism go and make people kill children in schools because they just want suffering? No. Evil creates symptoms of mental illness. Evil creates a situation where people give in to these disordered tendencies. And evil, if you keep walking down that path, leads you to ultimately killing people. And it's important to isolate that. Because a lot of people now are saying, oh, well, you know what this means? This means that, there's some prescription that we need about a culture war issue. And you have to question, what is really the motivation behind a lot of this kind of sentiment? Because when I look actually at a mass killer, when I look even at a transgender person, when I look at a lot of these people that are engaging in these types of behaviors, political extremism, and I know that's rich coming from me. I don't consider myself an extremist. But when you see our young people, this is a 23-year-old guy. These other mass shooters were 15, 17. What you see is a lot of kids that are really losing their way. Society's not there for them. Where are the parents here? Where was this guy's parents? How does a person go that insane? I mean, visibly, noticeably, unavoidably, this person's a lunatic. Acquiring an arsenal in their bedroom. Scrawling out these things. Parents don't check on the kid. What's the solution? Let him change his name? Give him prescription pills? What are we doing to all these people? The only way to prevent this kind of violence is we need to get back to a Christian order. Not anti one thing or another, although necessarily it is going to be anti-transgender. But we need to live in a Christian civilization where there's parents that are loving these kids. Where's the parents that love their children, that are paying attention to their children? Where's a society? Forget even about the parents. We live in the age of the nuclear family. In the old days, it wasn't just you in your bedroom and your two working parents that got to look after you. In the old days, you had a multi-generational household. In the old days, you had a true community.
I got to stop it there. Think about this. This is why it was so important for me and why I was so turned off by the Democratic Party and the liberals this last election. Gavin Newsom. In California, a teacher does not have to tell a parent when their kid comes in and my son John, he came into school as John. That's my son. And when he identifies with his teachers and his students and everybody else on the staff as Jessica, a parent doesn't even, is not obligated to tell the teacher's not obligated to tell the parent. It's to the teacher's discretion. Can you understand the insanity? This is why, and different parties impact people in different ways. This is why I can't stand liberals and Democrats. Everything from the social programs of Lyndon B. Johnson moving forward has been, how do I remove the leadership aspect in the household? How do I remove the father? How do I remove parenting? Whether it's a social program that says, hey, we'll give you this money, but you can't have a father in the household. Whether it's something like Gavin Newsom in California, what they're doing right now. Can you imagine that? My son going to school, identifying with a significant mental health issue, identifying as a girl, and the teachers are not obligated to tell me. They will call you and tell you Johnny didn't do his homework. But you don't tell me that Johnny's acting like Jessica. Johnny's screaming for help. And not only do you not call me, you create an environment for Johnny to be, oh, it's fine for Johnny to act like Jessica. Kids are sponges. They're impressionable. So now when you push that narrative, and teachers at that age, teachers, principals, they have a huge influence on the kids, So now when they're allowed to do that, do you think the kids are more likely to listen to their parents that are going to make them angry that they already can't stand, like most kids? When you go through those ages, or you think they're going to listen to the teachers and the principals that are pacifying them, allowing them to behave in whatever way that they want? Call me this, call me that. I'm a fairy today. I'm a kitty cat tomorrow, whatever it is. Where do you think they're going to lean? This is the problem that I have with a lot of these liberal policies. This is why I said For me, voting, I didn't care about finances and the economy and all that other stuff. It came down to the culture. When you have people pushing a culture that allows boys playing sports against girls, that's pushing this type of nonsense, you are literally walking kids down the plank to suicide and to all these other crazy things that come with these mental health things that apparently to the Democrats and liberals are so important to y'all. But they're only important when they can put you on a pill, do a surgery to you, or anything else where they can benefit from it. It's insane to me. Let's keep going.
People were eating in the same places, going to church in the same places. The neighbors were looking out for everybody. The police, the people were looking out for each other. And the true root cause of all these killings, I'm not going to lay the blame at the feet of left-wing people that support transgenderism. That's just not what it is. Because you have young, disaffected white guys that are going down the 4chan rabbit hole and they kill people at the behest of some federal agent in Buffalo, in El Paso, and in Christchurch, a number of other places. What is at the root of all of these antisocial ideologies? These sick internet communities where adults are grooming children to commit these acts of violence. What is at the root of all of it is there's no society. People are slipping through the cracks. And they're slipping through the cracks because society is not tight-knit. There is no society. There's no semblance of people feeling a part of a body, of an organism. People do not feel like they're a part of anything beyond themselves. And that seems to be the biggest common denominator. Not necessarily left or right-wing ideology, not whether they're a white male or some other thing, not whether they're transgender or even on SSRIs. Those all seem to be things that occur as an expression of it, as a symptom of it, things that coincide. At the root of it are people who we all know struggle spiritually or psychologically, and they're completely isolated. In complete isolation is only where a plot like this could be cooked up. Because, and who knows, we don't know the whole story here, but you know that if this person was loved, had friends, if this person had to leave their house every day and be involved with people, if there was less living space for this kind of stuff to fester, somebody would either catch it or this person would have never carried out this act. What you always see is a person who is predisposed to be deranged or to be spiritually vulnerable, who then, left in isolation, it's like anything else, rotting, festering. They're up in the bedroom, on the phone, on the desktop, on Discord, on OnlyFans, on some obscure forum. And maybe they have a tendency. It doesn't start out with idolizing mass killers. It starts out, as this shooter said in his manifesto, with a curiosity, a fixation. And going on the phone, going on the desktop, and cultivating that with a community of like-minded, insane people from all around the world. Going onto the internet, a place that will give you more of what you want. Somebody that is feeling clearly a lot of pain and dislocation is only getting more and more resentful, more and more monomaniacal in their fixation with these kinds of hyper-real things, the meta-irony, the internet culture, fantasies of violence. And eventually, in a country of 350 million people, statistically, one of these people will boil over and they won't be stopped. One of these people have the wherewithal or the IQ or the luck for their plans to succeed in carrying something like this out. That's just the math. And so, you know, there is no solution for this. There's no gun control solution. There's no culture war solution. There's no easy prescription for this other than that the society that we have is clearly rotted at its core. And strictly speaking, there is no core of our society. Everybody is, you almost think about it as people are sort of like in orbit around the center. And the center of public life used to be the church, used to be the king, the nation, it used to be something. And everybody was held in position in relation to one another around the center. And now there is no center. And now there are no relations between one and everybody else. And so now what you see is people are flying off in every other direction. It's like a nuclear fusion reaction. Everybody's flying off in every other direction and is creating this schizophrenic society. A totally schizophrenic, cacophonous society where people are really in their own world. It seems like everybody is on some level of delusion, whether it's the diet and the health stuff, whether it's the political stuff, whether it's religious fanaticism, religious esotericism, internet stuff, weird sexual stuff. Everybody's flying off in every other direction. And, look, we live on this side of heaven. So this is the world. This is the world as it is. This is the world as it's always been. The world has always been a fallen world and made of people that are fallen of the flesh. So you're always going to have these inclinations, these tendencies towards evil. But what has been lost is anything that is binding anybody, drawing anybody to anything that is good. Binding people together and then binding the people as a whole to something that's good, to something that's transcendent. That is what is missing. And it's in this vacuum, this hollow center where I think in this atomic society, everybody's flying off in every other direction. And you get stuff like this. So in a way, I don't think it's productive to do the culture war thing and say, oh, it's fucking trannies. No, and look, it's the same thing when the left says that some young white kid goes and shoots up a church of black people and people say it's these fucking white males. It's no different. It's no different. And I think that, and this is something I've been meaning to say for a long time, the spirit of our Christian religion is not judgment, although, of course, we're going to speak the truth about what is right and wrong, and we're going to assert it forcefully, but it's not contempt. It's not disdain. It's not cruelty that we're pretending is, admonition for someone's own good. The heart of our religion is mercy, forgiveness, compassion, charity above all else. And that's something I think that's missing across the board, whether you get the cruelty of the left with their flavor of political correctness and cancel culture and punch Nazis and fuck you. And don't get me wrong, I don't think there's quite an equivalence between right and left. I think the right's a little bit better. But we're starting to even see our own flavor of cruelty on the right wing. The right wing, we have to acknowledge, has its own flavor of cruelty. And some people might say, I'm guilty of that. I think I'm provocative. I think I'm bombastic. I think my language can be heavy-handed. I don't consider myself a cruel person. And I think that on the right, maybe some people are losing the forest for the trees. I don't identify as right wing. I'm a Christian. I am an American. And if there are teenagers out there, fucking teenagers, guys, pause, fucking. If there are teenagers, high schoolers. Yeah, they watch Destiny. Yeah, they watch Vosh. And there's teenagers that are going in the other direction. Are we in a culture war against our neighbors? Are we in a culture war against high schoolers? Are we in a culture war against people like Dean Withers? We're in a spiritual war against the devil. And we are all united in that same struggle. Even our wayward brothers and sisters, even our wayward, your liberal family members, your transgender family members, yes, the Democrats, yes, even those wayward people, we actually do have an obligation to them to be charitable. We actually do have an obligation to them to be merciful and understanding. And we are all united in the same struggle against the devil that is trying to trip all of us up spiritually. And so when I see something like this is evil at its core, and people are racing to make it a political thing. They're saying like, oh, this is about like Trump. No, it's about the culture war. It's like, is this really Why are we doing this? What do we have in mind when we're doing this? Is this to do rage bait on fucking Twitter? I see, and it's so fucking gross and disgusting. People like Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, and Matt Walsh, this is their Super Bowl. Each and every one of them had 50 things to say about it before the bodies got cold. 50 hot fucking takes, 50 engagement bait, rage bait takes, each one trying to outdo the other, trying to prove a point, trying to say something about the Dems, the left, the fucking whatever. And I just question it. And normally that's not as big of a deal. It's retail politics. You do engage in rhetoric. It's like a form of marketing. We understand that. We could be mature about that. But on a day like today, when evil, true evil, showed its face in the house of God, and you saw something so heinous, the shooter, drew a picture of himself with the devil reflected back in the mirror. And you say, oh, well, that just fits with my narrative about Democrats. Like, what is wrong with you? Do you actually care about people? Do you actually care about Americans? Do you actually care about our society and our country? Do you actually care about the body of Christ on earth? Do you actually care about the body of the church? Or are you just really a Republican? I saw some guy say on Twitter, Jake Lloyd, who I used to be friends with, he showed a side-by-side of my tweet and Matt Walsh. And my tweet, my reaction said, this doesn't look ideological. This looks demonic. This looks spiritual. If anything, this is not ideological. This was influenced by the demonic and the diabolical. And Matt Walsh's tweet said, fucking transgender suck, blah. Okay, predictable. And the tweet from Jake Lloyd comparing the tweets said, guess which one is right wing? Is that really the game? Is like, who could be the most right wing? And what does it mean to be the most right wing? Who can outdo the other in hating the left the most? Who has the most contempt? Who has the most disdain? Who could be the most cruel? Who could be the most judgmental? Who could be the most hardcore? You know, and is that really the game? Is like, I'm right wing. I'm going to put out the right wing take for the right wing team. Yes, I have right wing opinions. I'm very right wing. I don't think anyone would accuse me of not being right wing. I have right wing opinions on basically everything. But at my core, I'm not right wing. At my core, I am a man. At my core, I'm a created being. At my core, I am a Christian. And maybe a step above that, I'm an American. And I do actually have compassion. And this might be controversial. I have compassion not just for the victims who are blameless and innocent, who are gunned down for no reason at all. I also have compassion for the shooter, believe it or not. As Christians, that's what we're called to do. I also have compassion for another soul that was lost far earlier. And it doesn't excuse his actions. He'll be judged and pay for them. God assures us of this. Vengeance belongs to God. But I also have compassion for that person too, who at one time was a 12-year-old, who one time was one of the 12-year-olds we deigned to care about, the children who went down the rabbit hole, isolated, alone, dislocated, predisposed, whatever you want to say, started down that path and kept feeding it a child in the snares of the devil, and was led down that path one step after the other by some transnational online element, by some government operative, who knows, maybe by his own sin of curiosity, maybe actually by supernatural forces. And so that was also a soul that was lost, maybe not today, but a long time ago. And so we have to start thinking globally in that way. And by globally, I don't mean globalist. I mean, we have to start thinking in terms of the cosmos and our role in it. What is the center of your universe? What is the center of your microcosm, your macrocosm? What's the center of your life? What is the work that we're doing here? Is it to get Republicans elected? Is it to score points on Twitter? Is it to be the most conservative we can be? Or is it to actually heal our country? Is it to actually heal? And what is the country? The people in it. And the people are broken. The people's spirits are broken. You know, the etymology of that is to tear things apart. I'm borrowing this from Fulton Sheen, completely shamelessly. But that's the essence of the diabolic, is to tear things apart, to disintegrate families, countries, societies, nations, souls into different pieces. Our goal is to heal the country. Our goal is to heal people. And we're not going to do that by taking every opportunity with this kind of sacrilege, this complete lack of any kind of, is nothing sacred. Children, 8-year-olds were murdered today in a Catholic church by some demonically influenced maniac, and you got 40 tweets, one after the other. Here, oh boy, here we go. Oh, they were transgender? All right. Man, this is really going to prove a fucking point. And I'm really not trying to virtue signal, but I just question, have you lost the plot? Have you lost perspective entirely? It actually makes me sick, because there's a lot of things that don't make sense in the world right now. There's a lot of things that are just crazy. We can't agree on anything. Things are confusing. Everything's coming apart. But it's like the one thing we could all see is like, yeah, this is genuinely horrifying. Like this is one of those things that shakes you to your core. When you see that drawing, like look at that drawing. He drew himself looking in the mirror and the devil is reflected back. It reminds you, like, we hate evil. It reminds you we hate sadism. We hate those things. And we love love. We love the self-giving love that overflows from the Father to the Son. We love the self-giving, sacrificial love that flows from the sacrifice on the cross, from parents to their children, from friends to one another. Those are things and moments that remind you what it's all really about. And people are talking about fucking Republicans and Democrats. People have genuinely lost it. So we got to get back to what's real. So much of the stuff I'm just so sick of. Like, as time goes on, it's sort of an interesting journey because you do a political show and you start out like, I don't agree with all this woke stuff, race, hatred of whites, the gay stuff. You start out with, this strikes me as wrong. You get into politics. It's all political parties. And what you end up with, if your pursuit is the truth about the way the world works, about the nature of reality, you find yourself in a religious battle. Anyone who is reasonably a critical thinker that goes down the rabbit hole of politics lands on religion.
Very quickly, want to chime in. When he said that last part, as far as like when you go down this rabbit hole of politics, you end up getting to a place of religion. This is exactly where our show has gone. We talk about politics for so long, like we need to change this, we need to change that. Of course, we're into, Donald Trump going against Biden, Trump versus Kamala Harris, because that's the election cycle. That's what we're seeing. That's the event that we're all anticipating. So we get so caught up in politics to the point where we forget that we're all connected in this spiritual universe, right? That's what I hear when he's talking. When he's talking about this is a spiritual war. People have been saying this for a very long time. It is a spiritual war. Just think about the fact of how many politicians will not speak up when it comes to what's going on between Israel and Palestine. This is one of the reasons why they hate Nick Fuentes, because he will unapologetically speak up against what's going on with Israel, this genocide that's being committed against Palestine. He'll say it just like that. Politicians are scared to say it, so they won't bring a guy like Nick on their show because they know Nick is going to shoot it straight and hold them accountable to the same things that they say when it applies to other areas of life. You have all these people running around saying they're Christians, they're this and they're that, but you have no problem with what's going on between Israel and Palestine. You don't feel it's your duty and obligation to speak on that, to voice that. We just sit over here and just like, oh, that's over there. No worries. We typically only care about stuff when it hits our front door, when it comes to our doorstep. And that's not what, from my understanding, being a Christian is. We've been manipulated by getting more into politics, focusing more on that rather than focusing on what's going to heal our soul. We get so caught up in, even like, we allow all these powers that be that just take advantage, just like big pharma, to just run our lives. Even the reason why the whole mental health crisis is what it is because of big pharma. They can sell you pills when they say it's a mental health crisis. It's mental health, mental this, right? Even though they'll never actually address the things that are symptoms of our souls being sick and leading to the mental health. They'll never address the actual root of the issues. It's just like when they give you diabetes medicine, high blood pressure medicine, it's just going to ease it. You got to keep taking the medicine though. You got to keep taking these diet pills. You got to keep taking these shots or whatever else they are. You got to, so when big pharma, and we talked about this later or earlier, it's not that, like, our souls are sick. Our souls are sick. That's why we have the most purposeless men walking around here, because our souls are sick. When he talks about what's the center of our universe, what is our purpose? What are we here for? Are we here to leave the world in a better place, or are we here to just make money enough to get by, align with whatever political party we want to align with, watch the game on Sunday, and then just put it on repeat every week? Our souls are sick. What are we working towards? What challenges are we confronting? How are we uniting with one another? How are we building with one another? These are all the things that are coming out. And like he said before, when you have a transgender and all these other things, these are symptoms of the problems, but our problems are that our souls are sick. Just my opinion. Let's keep it going.
And to me, that's what's real. I'm just not interested in all the other stuff. So anyway, so this is just another opportunity to remember we need to be rightly guided. And we got to remember what we're really about. I don't want to be a part of the culture war. I'm out. I'm resigning from the culture war. I don't want to be at war with everybody. I don't want to be at, and obviously, you know, and it should be said, it deserves to be said that the Democrats, the left, without a doubt, the political left, for as long as where does the political left originate? It originates in the French Revolution. And the French Revolution was a revolution of Illuminists and Masons and these liberal elements against the Catholic monarchies. That's where left and right originates. You had the proponents of the old regime on the right. You had the liberals, the critics of the regime on the left. Like, that's where it comes from. So you're always going to have a preference for the right, which protects the right to life. You're always going to have a preference for the right, which is against transgenderism, which is against feminism, divorce, which is against these things. But increasingly, they're not. You know, increasingly the right, what does the right even stand for at this point? You know, out of one side of their mouth, they're going to condemn this. Well, they talk about the killings in Gaza. They'll talk about, you know, transgenders and feminists and liberals on one side of their mouth, and onto the other, this whole administration is filled with gay people, openly gay people. This administration is filled with and is a proponent of things that are very socially liberal. So we just need to be very careful that we are not being instrumentalized by the world. Is the Republican Party and the right, is that truly a vessel for Christians? Or are Christians being used in some clash between people about worldly things? That's kind of where I've been for a long time. These categories are becoming useless. If they both represent liberalism, if they both represent modernism, if they both represent things that are demonic. Bryson Gray, I have infinite respect for Bryson Gray, a friend of mine, because he went against Trump after building his whole brand being a MAGA guy, because Trump was not being a social conservative, was not being a Christian. And the second that happened, Bryson said, I'm out. And so it's just important to have like the right orientation on these kinds of things, on these issues. But anyway, so those are my thoughts on the whole mass shooting. These are spiritual inflection points. I don't think it's even debatable that when you see an act of violence like this, whether it's Sandy Hook, we're going to leave that alone. I don't want to get sued for $1 billion, but like, let's just say what we understand Sandy Hook to be, this if you are, you know, I feel like if you have a spiritual sensitivity, if you're a thoughtful person, you think about matters of morals and faith, if you're sensitive in that way, when you see these events, they touch us. We understand that there's something deeper going on here, if you know what I mean by that. When you see kids murdered at a church by this diabolical entity, it's like it hits you like a ton of bricks. It knocks the wind out of you. It's like something diabolical happened in another realm. Something happened, and maybe that sounds kooky or whatever, but something spiritual happened today. Something evil happened today, and it had to do with the spiritual. It did not have to do with the polemical, the partisan, the ideological, and it's sort of like, I didn't want to say this tonight, but it's like Star Wars. It's like this was the Sith. This was evil itself. It wasn't the political layers built on top of it. This was the religious nucleus of the left, which is the diabolical. This is the spiritual nucleus of transgenderism, the spiritual nucleus of leftism, of these things. So anyway, those are my thoughts on it all together.
So for those that obviously are familiar with Nick, you may have seen that already, or you may not be surprised. I'm interested to see how everybody else is feeling who may not be as familiar with his content, especially if you already came into it with people telling you that he's a racist, he's anti-Semite, all these other things, right? I want to hold on, let me remove Nick from the stream. All the groypers, don't leave. No, but one thing that came up in the discussion, so we have these conversations on Thursdays where we talk spirituality and religion, and one of the things that came up yesterday, it kind of got me thinking from this perspective, that when we think about spirituality compared to religion, some people see it the same. I think that we're in a generation now where we actually separate the two, where a lot of people may be turned off from religion. A lot of people may just see themselves as spiritual. I've gone down many different paths when it comes to religion. And what I realized is that for me, a lot of people need instruction. A lot of people need instruction. Now, how I look at spirituality is that's the light inside of you, right? That's the understanding, embracing that we're all godly beings. We come from this creator. So how can we come from something that doesn't have a part of us, right? Our parents, we come from our parents. Our parents' DNA is inside of us. So no different than the creator. So when I see the spirituality, I think of that as the light within us, right? That's the power source. That's the energy. So that's the TV being plugged in to the energy source, right? But even if it's plugged in, you still need a remote to turn it on, right? You still need a remote to control the channels. Other than, you can have a TV plugged in, but it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere if you don't actually do anything with it. So you have the remote, and that's what typically serves, in my opinion, as the guidance, the instructions, how we're going to go about living our life. And a lot of people, even when Nick was talking about feeling alone, I think that that's in the physical, where we just don't interact as much. We are just in our phones. We're separate. We don't go outside and play. We don't have community. We don't have family dinners. We don't eat together. We don't do any of those things. So it's in that sense. But I believe what religion also does for a lot of people, regardless of how you feel about it, and regardless of how I feel about it, I should say, I think it provides a lot of people with a certain level of comfort through guidance. Now, I understand we got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's how you explore new things. I understand all that. But I think it provides you with almost like a friend that you can go through life with, or I don't know what it is, but it provides you something, some type of guidance. So when I speak on religion, I want to make sure that I'm not always just speaking down on it from this perspective, or people aren't receiving it that way. There's a lot of pros that come from religion. I see it do a lot of great things for people. And I think that now that we're living in certain times where people are so lost, perhaps a certain amount of guidance is needed. And what I always like to tell people is, yo, you live by whatever principles and direction you live by. My religion is simple. You know, what I live by, I should say, my guiding principle: treat others the way that I want to be treated. If you do not feel that there's a religion out there that's for you, research a new one. And if you still don't feel like there's one for you, then create your own. Build your own principles. Hold yourself accountable to how you want to live by your own standards. You can still embrace the books. You can still embrace the scripture. You can still embrace all these things and learn lessons from them. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to read the Bible and take away the lessons. We're supposed to read the Torah. We're supposed to read all of these different books that we have, right? The Quran, and take away the lessons from them. That's the value. We're learning through other people's experience. They're giving guidance based on their experience so that we can take it, so we don't have to put our hand on the stove. We can already learn, like, okay, this is how this goes. Or even when we're confronted with a challenge, it allows us some type of guidance, a flashlight to help us get through. So that's how I look at it. That's how I look at it. But what I personally live by is that golden rule of treating others the way that I want to be treated. And then everything follows that. And I think that that may be one of the biggest spiritual principles when you think about it, from treating others the way that I want to be treated. It's like what the Rastafarians say, I and I. They don't say you and me. They don't say me and Bob. They say I and I. We're the same thing. So when you understand that you're treating others the way that you want to be treated, it's a direct connection with that person. You're putting yourself in that person's shoes. I want to treat that person the way that I would want to be treated in that situation. So that's how I like to look at it. Y'all take it or leave it. All right, so we're going to change gears a little bit. It actually connects with a lot of the things that we were just discussing and what Nick was talking about, perhaps. But when it comes to overall in society benefits from us being sick, from us being lost, from us being ignorant, from us being broke. They benefit from us being at our worst, so they can either capitalize from an economic standpoint, financial standpoint, or they can capitalize from controlling us in whatever way, and from an influential standpoint. So I want y'all to take a look at this. I want y'all to take a look at this video. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I got it show for you guys. All right. Let me make it larger. Take a look at this. So this is Zohran Mamdani. I'm not as familiar with him. Everybody says he's like one of these extreme liberals and whatnot. I wanted to show this video because, for one, it's embarrassing. For one, it's embarrassing, but it's going to take us down a path of, after this video with Donald Trump. I don't know if y'all grew up with the physical fitness awards. So I think about 4 to 5 weeks ago, Donald Trump brought back the presidential fitness awards. Now, I don't know why they were taken away. If I had to guess, I would say that they were taken away because of body positivity, and it shames certain people. Certain people feel bad when they can't do a pull-up, and it's embarrassing and it hurts their feelings. Probably, I would assume. I don't know why else you would take away fitness tests that incentivize young kids to get in the best shape from a fitness standpoint that they can. I don't know why you would do that, but he's bringing it back. Look at this. Look at this. This is the type of person that probably did not want us to have a presidential fitness award.
Yeah! Real pain, take the blazer off. Let's go.
So he's at an event.
Real pain.
They're doing some bench press.
We got the future.
Everybody's excited about the mayor out.
Let's go.
They got, I think, it may be 135 pounds on the bar.
Let's go. Some more. Slide up some more. Slide him up. Slide him up. Some more. Slide him up. Yeah. Easy money. Easy money.
He's getting a spot.
1, 2, 3.
This could go bad.
Yeah. Let's go. Hey. Up. Hey. Let's go. Hey, baby. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go. That's real.
This is embarrassing to me. In my opinion, you call it what you want to call it. I don't think that any leader should be that weak from a physical standpoint and be that out of shape. I think that one of the issues that I think we face in society is that who we follow. We've lost touch of what it's supposed to be a man, in my opinion, what it's supposed to be a leader. We just allow people to just be completely out of shape, weak-minded. And a lot of people think that it's well, why should I have to walk around like this? It's the discipline. It's the discipline, the structure that comes into play when you're working out, when you're actually doing something to put your body through pain every day in order to come out better on the other side. It's a process. It's life. It's sacrificing one thing in order to have something better on the other end. It's what we do at work. Everything is about a sacrifice in order to get a bigger reward, right? We're not going to work and sacrificing and making less money than y'all understand the point. When we have a mayor like this who cannot lift 135 pounds on his own, how do you get to a place of leadership like this? See, back in the day, this is why, and obviously all things back in the day, whatever that is for you, are not positive things, right? But when you think about these movies like the Spartans and all these things, the reasons, in my opinion, why they had certain principles, even when you go to even think about like the Wild West, when people walked around with guns, there was a certain level of respect in how people carried themselves, right? When you go back to these times where the Spartans and stuff, where you actually had to be physically fit, that there was something that commanded leadership. It wasn't just because, oh, that guy's the biggest and he can beat everybody up. It's the fact that what it took in order for that guy to be that. That guy was the hardest worker, and that's why they got those results. So when we have these leaders that, I don't know, maybe I'm just biased, but when we follow these leaders that are weak like this is the reason why we have these emasculated men, these feminized men, this feminized leadership, in my opinion. A man that doesn't work out, to me, it's just, I can't understand it. I cannot, it's very hard for me to respect. It's very hard for me to respect. And this is the world that we live in. This is the goofiness that comes with, and I see it impacting so many different areas. And you're probably going to say like, yo, how is he connecting these dots that aren't even there? Even when you look at gangs, do you remember how gang members used to look when it was Tukey Williams? And they were super swole like this, and they were big because they were actually physically fighting each other. Nowadays, you see gang members, and they weigh less than their girlfriends, and all they do is shoot people. There's just different principles that we live by, in my opinion, that just has us lost in this society. Just has us lost in this society. So I don't know. I wanted to just show that video before we get into some of the other videos, but let's take a look at now the one that I was talking about with the Physical Fitness Award. But I think that we've just lost ourselves in a lot of different areas. I think we've lost ourselves in a lot of different areas. Even when, I don't know about y'all, but do y'all ever get those videos that come across either on YouTube or Instagram where they show what gym class used to look like in like the 70s and the 80s? And they do all these studies where they compare the grip strength of like our grandfathers compared to our grip strength. Like, we're just weaker. And all of this stuff just reminds me of the saying where it's hard times create strong men create easy times create weak men create tough times. And I constantly play that quote in my mind because I remind myself of the cycle that we're in. And like I said, it's not just from a physical standpoint, but what's so funny about all this stuff is you go on Instagram right now and everybody's so spiritually inclined and everybody's living in their flow and all this other type of stuff. And I'm not taking a shot at anybody in particular because somebody listening to the show probably going to think I'm talking about them. I'm not talking about you, but we can understand on that level that our mind, body, and soul is connected. But then when it comes to this standpoint, as far as why it's important for us to be in shape, we don't understand it. So let's take a look at this. I think this is, we've been ripping Trump for a while, based on his actions in Israel, Iran, and a lot of other things that he seems to be pretty compromised on. This to me is a win. Let's take a look at what's going on here.
fitness test is back. Remember that? Late today, President Trump signing an executive order reinstating the National Fitness Assessment, a public school program started in the 1950s that asked students to perform a combination of push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, and running. Those with high enough fitness scores eligible to receive the Presidential Physical Fitness Award, you may remember.
And see, hold on. And now for all y'all, this is not the long form stuff anymore. I will be chiming in. So the artist returns. I need a person who's mentally fit. I don't care how much they lift. That's meathead-ish vibe right there. I'm just saying, I used to lift my body weight, but I can't now, and I don't work out like I used to. So are you making an excuse for your insecurities, or do you actually believe that you don't care how much they lift? Because based on this sentence, I'm not sure if you're making an excuse for your insecurities and trying to project that on everybody else, which is another thing that we see happening over and over in society, right? We take our insecurities because I'm not this, then I don't want my friends to do this. How many times you have a friend where you ever, have somebody that you're cool with and you broke up with your girl. Now you want them to break up with their girlfriend, or vice versa with the ladies, or they're crashing out, doing all types of stuff, drinking, doing drugs and whatnot. You're on point, doing what you need to do, focused on life, becoming successful, but they want to pull you over there because they're insecure in a particular area, so they want to bring you over there. Bro, how can you, if it's important to be mentally fit, are we missing the connection? Are we missing the understanding? Let me ask y'all a question. The only way to get physically fit is to have the things that are categorized as mentally fit, you would say. Disciplined, committed, right? All of these things. Like, think about the things that make you work out every day. It's not just from an ego standpoint. It's us understanding that our mind, body, and soul, the better we are physically, the better we are going to be mentally, the better we're going to be spiritually. All these things are connected. But when it's somebody that's focusing on their individual insecurities, then we tend to, oh, well, you don't have to have that. You don't have to have that. We all do this. And I'm not just picking on the artist returns. We all do this. But there should be a standard here. There should be a standard, because you want to know why? Somebody that's not physically fit, somebody that doesn't take their fitness seriously, you are a vulnerability. You're a vulnerability for your family. It's very selfish to not be healthy. It's very selfish to not take your health seriously. You're going to be the person that the family has to take care of. You're going to be the person that now we got to figure out a way to raise money for, because you're out of shape and you've allowed your health to get out of sorts. And now it's selfish. It's selfish from that standpoint. It's selfish from the fact that you were given this temple, right? A lot of us, we could bring it back to religion. You're given this body, your temple. Why would you abuse it? We treat our cars better than we treat our bodies. We care more about, I bet you may not care about how much your boyfriend, girlfriend, I don't know whether it's a guy or a girl, you may not care about your person that's mentally fit, but you care about how your car looks. You don't care about how that person's body looks, but you care about how your car looks. You probably get regular oil changes. So you care about your car, this metal object, more than you care about this temple that was given to you by God. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. But that's just my opinion, though. To each their own. To each their own.
Scores eligible to receive the Presidential Physical Fitness Award, you may remember. In 1985, that included running a 3:30 half mile for 8-year-old boys and just under a 4-minute half mile for girls. For more, Dr. Jordan Metzel joins us now. He's a primary sports medicine doctor at the Hospital for Special Surgery. Doctor, I like your headphones there. Thank you for joining Top Story tonight. So today, the White House and Health Secretary RFK recalling the way his uncle, President John F. Kennedy, advocated for youth fitness in the early 60s. You might know this phrase he coined, the soft American. Let's take a quick look at the JFK era program right now.
You've probably heard that American kids are getting soft. The marshmallow generation, some people call them. Overstuffed and overindulged, they supposedly are incapable of hard work or response to challenge.
In the early 60s, a primary concern was television. Now with phones and screens and video games. As a doctor, how concerned are you today about kids' fitness? Because you look at that video and that could seem, we understand the philosophy behind it, but it could also seem incredibly insensitive.
Evening, Tom, and great to see you. And it's absolutely right that American kids are overweight and inactive. We have about 25% of our population under the age of 18 is overweight. About 80% do not meet CDC recommended levels of activity for general fitness. I am all in with getting kids to move more. It's great for their health. Now, the question is whether a physical fitness test will inspire that. That's a different discussion, but definitely that video from JFK era is still true today, probably more so.
Yeah, I do want to ask you, though, what about the messaging, though, right? Because, the presidential physical fitness test was hard. I can remember it. I remember, I went to an all-boys school, and a handful of the kids would get it, even in our grade, and there was a lot of athletes in the grade. It's great to test yourself, right? Great to get in shape. But nowadays, we've learned so much about sort of mental health, right? And I'm not saying you have to be soft on kids or you have to be soft in general, but I do get concerned about maybe sending the wrong message to kids, especially when they're growing up, and weight can be an issue.
For sure, we want to figure out how we can get everybody more active. I think one of the big problems we have is we have kind of a hyper-specialized upper echelon of very active kids that are the elite level soccer players, baseball players, a lot of resources for those kids. The bottom part of the iceberg, the people who are less active or inactive, we have a much bigger problem with that part of our population. So we want to figure out how we get those people active. I'm not certain whether the presidential physical fitness test is going to be, the hill I want to put my flag on to say this, if we do this or don't do this, it's going to make a difference. We definitely need to think about how we get our population more active, particularly our kids more active. One thing we definitely know is that active kids become active teens, active teens become active adults, and the number one factor in terms of kids staying active across their lifespan is enjoyment and community. So whatever that means in terms of what they do, whether or not they play NBA or Major League Baseball or NFL, just getting them active and getting them going is a key. And we need to keep thinking about ways to make sure we're doing that for everyone.
Yeah, I want to take you back to the great 1980s. And I don't know if I remember this moment or if I saw it, but President George H.W. Bush it's actually 1991, inviting Arnold Schwarzenegger to come out to sort of be the spokesperson, if you will, and that model of fitness. He invited him to the White House to promote what he called the Great American Workout. What would it take, do you think, today, with all the screens, all the apps, all the video games, to get kids excited about staying healthy?
Well, I think the downside is that people are less active because of those things, but there's also an opportunity, thinking about the way we get, why do some fitness brands succeed online and others have had a big problem? And we have a capacity to think about gamification. Look at Arnold there and all these kids. They're smiling. One thing we've learned is that either in-person or even virtual gamification increases compliance in any activity. That's why people are doing TikTok, because it's fun. So how do we think about combining physical activity and fun and community and fun? We can make virtual communities in different ways than we can make them before. So it's not all bad news. We have to be creative about how we do it, what kind of reward systems we set up. There's a lot of, I think, really exciting things that can be part of this discussion as well. I think the focus, though, needs to be the human body is the same body. It needs to move. It needs to be active. It needs to be well fed. And we need to lay off some of the junky foods, which is another part of the problem as well.
Yo, this is not that complicated. This is not that complicating. We try to make this as complicated as possible to give ourselves an excuse to not do the stuff. You need to burn more calories than you take in. Go out and move your body. Do something. Go walk. Figure it out. And the fact that the guy had to, and maybe I heard it wrong, and I think somebody wrote mental health in there. It's I don't know why he had to throw that in there, but it's funny that when you throw the physical health in there, I just don't understand it. And the reason why, maybe it's because a lot of these news stations, when you look at who's paying their actual salaries, it's all the pharmaceutical companies. So this is why the powers that be, who are the biggest contributors to a lot of these politicians? Who are the biggest contributors to a lot of these mainstream media outlets? Why is America one of the only first world countries that you can advertise pain pills and all these prescriptions and opioids on TV? We claim that we care about kids. We claim that we care about people's lives. We have this quote unquote opioid crisis, but then you can turn on your TV and Big Pharma's trying to sell you a prescription. We go to the doctor's office, and shout out to RFK Jr. I think RFK Jr. just passed something to where he's now doctors are required to, I don't know, have some type of nutrition certification or talk to their patients about nutrition. But why, when you go to the doctor's office, they don't ever ask you about what you eat? I've had conversations with different doctors. So for those that don't know, I'm in the healthcare space. So I work with a lot of orthopedic surgeons, pain doctors, spine doctors. These are the people that I'm working with. And I've spoken to a bunch of them where when they talk about older people coming into their offices and having joint issues, issues with their joints, issues, whatever they may be, they don't even feel comfortable talking to them about their weight issues. The fact that, hey, when you're carrying around an extra 40 to 50 pounds that your body's actually built for, then it's adding pressure on your joints. Now you don't feel like getting up and working out. And it's just like a hole that you end up falling down. It just snowballs into now you're not able to walk. Now you don't have all these things. But in reality, a lot of the root of the problem was you just didn't take care of your fitness. You didn't prioritize it. Even the doctor sitting here, he's saying, well, I don't really know what the impact's going to be I don't know if this is going to solve it. Yo, this is very simple. If you have active kids, like he said, they're going to be active teens. They're going to be active young adults. Then they're going to be active adults. And more importantly, they're going to be active parents that prioritize fitness, health, nutrition. Because to be totally honest, that's child abuse to me. It's child abuse to me when you're raising a kid in an environment that is not conducive to them becoming healthy. How is that not child abuse? It's not fair to a kid to grow up in a home where their parents don't prioritize eating healthy and working out. It's not fair for that kid. I feel bad for those type of kids. So this is why I go back to the Mamdani thing. Like when you go, all this stuff is connected. All these things are connected. Like we like to act like we'll draw connections when they suit our purpose, but then things that are directly right in front of our face, a lot of times we'll totally disregard them as if we don't understand the problem. We have an obesity problem in our country. I think the average American woman, white and black, if you combine white and black, I think it's like average like 180 something pounds. We have a problem, but when we continue to tell people and hype people up and tell these big people that, oh, there's nothing wrong, we don't believe in body shaming, it's body positivity. The only reason, think about it, the only way that they're telling you to lose weight, it's not even through working out. It's through ways that they can benefit from. It's here, take this, oh, we got this pill now, we got this shot. So now people are taking the Ozempic, the Mounjaro, the peptides and all this stuff. I think we're about to watch a video on one right now. That's when they're pushing it. But they're pushing it as an alternative to working out. Don't we realize that working out is not just the benefit of having a nice body, being in shape, being able to care for your family, protect your family if you're in a vulnerable position, being able to carry your mother. The artist Returns wrote earlier that he doesn't care about how somebody can lift. That's the privileged society that we live in right now. I'll be totally honest, when I'm running or I'm working out, one of the things that I think about on a regular basis is how pitiful I would feel if I was in an emergency situation and I could not carry my kids out of something. I could not carry my mother or my dad or help my family, help my girl. You can't protect them in certain situations because you're just weak. They see you as weak. We don't take these things into consideration. It's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling to me, but this is the society that we live in. This is the society that we've been okay with, that we've allowed with this emasculated leadership. All right, let's move on to this next video that I wanted to show y'all. This is Serena Williams. So apparently, people just be selling out for money, bro. People just be selling out, and people get to a certain point where they feel like they're so above everything that they can just do any and everything. Take a look at this video.
Serena Williams, and I'm a Real Row member.
This morning, Serena Williams breaking her silence about her weight loss journey, revealing she used medication to help her lose 31 pounds.
They say GLP-1s for weight loss is a shortcut. It's not. It's science. After kids, it's the medicine my body needed.
The 43-year-old tennis star, who has won 23 Grand Slams, says she struggled with weight after giving birth to her first child, Alexis, in 2017, and then again when Adira was born in 2023, telling People magazine, "I never was able to get to the weight I needed to be no matter what I did, no matter how much I trained." After she was done breastfeeding, Williams turning to the telehealth company Ro for GLP-1 injections.
These GLP-1 drugs help our body regulate how much we're eating by essentially signaling to our brains that we're full. And they help to regulate blood sugar and slow digestion.
Williams says now she feels better than ever, more energy, less joint pain, telling People, "GLP-1 helped me enhance everything that I was already doing, eating healthy and working out." Williams says she's never felt pressured to maintain a certain appearance, but with millions commenting on her body, it was important to teach her daughters body positivity, saying, "I feel like you should love yourself at any size and any look."
It's not.
It's completely contradicting. So you feel that you should love yourself at any body, any weight. You're preaching body positivity, but yet you're taking medicine to lose weight. It doesn't even make any sense. And for Serena to do this, I'll be totally honest, I think that it's so irresponsible, because how do we look at Serena? How do young girls look at Serena? How do women look at Serena? Like she's Superwoman. So when Serena has the excuse of she couldn't lose weight, whether she had a baby or not, she has that excuse of, I tried, I was doing all the right things. This GL1, it's just enhancing the things that I was already doing well, eating healthy and working out. Everybody tries to act like they're unique, like their situation is unique. Oh, I don't know why I couldn't lose weight. I was doing all the right things. No, you weren't. She talks about it's not a shortcut, it's science. No, what science is are our bodies. Unless you have some sort of, and I know some people have complications that may prevent this, but the majority of us, it's very simple. If you burn more calories than you take in, then you'll be all right. If you're eating more calories than you're burning off, you're probably going to be gaining weight. If you're eating a whole bunch of processed junk foods, then they may add on the weight differently. If you eat stuff that you're supposed to eat, then you'll be in better shape. But now that Serena came out and did this, one of the greatest athletes of all time, men or women, now what do we think the average person is going to say? They're going to give themselves the same excuse. So now they're going to take the GL1 or whatever else they'll take. And what they're missing out on is the biggest benefit to actually losing weight. Losing weight should be a reward. Having a nice body should be a reward for sacrificing in order to get that body, a reward for finally developing the habits and the discipline that it requires in order to get these things. When she started off the video, it sounded cute. It's almost like it sounds smart to somebody dumb. This isn't a shortcut, it's science. It's a shortcut. Like it's a shortcut. But this is the society that we're living in.
Just the way you look in the mirror, but it's being the healthiest version of yourself and really emphasizing on health.
Lionel Moyes, ABC News, New York.
Hey, yo, who wrote? Ragnar wrote, is this Kai Cenat? Come on, bro. Knock it off, man. Yeah, give me those Kai Cenat numbers. Yeah, it's Kai Cenat. Do me a favor. Share this post and tell him Kai Cenat is live. He just changed his page to OG Network. So yeah, definitely do that. All right, so I want to show y'all this video that was a year ago on these GL1s. So this is a doctor that's now describing it, because a lot of people like me, I just watched that and I didn't even know what they were talking about. I just categorized all the weight loss pills the same, and that may not necessarily be the right thing. Ozempic may be different than Manjaro or GLP. I don't know, but let's take a look at this video. You guys give me your thoughts. Hold on. At least so we can understand what exactly it is. And pay attention to how these doctors behave. It's like you can just tell these doctors are bought and paid for by Big Pharma.
GLP-1 drugs have become increasingly popular class of medications. Their duality in treating type 2 diabetes and managing weight and overweight and obese patients has drawn attention to this relatively new class of drugs. So joining us now to talk more about this on Wellness with Wood is Dr. John Schramm, a bariatric expert at Corewell Health. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So tell us about some of these drugs. What are some of the names we'd recognize and how do they work?
Saxenda, Wegovy, Manjaro. They're medications that actually work by affecting gut hormones. We now know that obesity is a disease. It's a disease caused by a deficiency of certain gut hormones or too much of certain gut hormones. And we now have medications that can affect those.
Obesity is a disease. Yo, these are the experts. Yo, for the baby boomers. Yo, the baby boomers have destroyed us. And I'm joking around. And I always feel bad when I say that because I feel like my parents are listening and they're like, I'm not talking about my parents. My parents get to it. They work out. They work out. So yeah, none of that. But the baby boomers, in a lot of ways, y'all are the reason why these doctors feel like they can get on these TV shows and just spew this insane rhetoric. Now obesity is a disease. I'm not even gonna look up the definition of disease. I don't care. I know how disease has been used my entire life. Now we're categorizing obesity in that. And the reason why I say the baby boomers is because you guys always looked at these politicians, these doctors, you held them in such high regards. You know, you go to the doctors and you trust everything that they say. Look at them just like you look at the car salesman. Look at them the same. They are selling you something. The car salesman wants you to buy the most expensive product because that's what's going to be most financially beneficial for the car salesman, right? So why can we understand that, but we don't understand that a doctor, he's trying to sell you on his highest product, the product that puts the most amount of money in his pocket. Why do you think when you call your doctor, they're asking you what insurance you have? And depending on your insurance, oh yeah, the doctor can see you today. Try calling back with a different insurance. And try calling back with one of these Obamacare or whatever. I don't even know, whatever. I'm not even saying Obamacare is bad insurance, but try calling back with some of these other insurances. Oh, nah, we're booked up for a couple weeks. The reason why is because the insurances pay for the surgeries different. Going to see a doctor and you got a terrible insurance that's not going to pay that doctor very well. The doctor's looking at it like, damn, I don't want to perform this surgery on this person. I'm going to take this risk of having this surgery. This person may sue me. The surgery could go bad. It may not even make a difference. Why would I take a risk on doing this surgery with this patient and it's only going to pay me $1,000? That's not worth my insurance. Have a different type of insurance. Police, fire, teachers sometimes got great insurances. Have a great insurance. You go into that doctor. They will try to do any and every surgery on you. And if they can't get you on a surgery, then they'll try to prescribe you whatever pain pill they can because they know that at least it'll be beneficial for the pharmaceutical companies. You know, the ladies that come in here and drop off the lunches and tell us to try their samples and gas us up and take us and fly us to Aruba for these medical conferences so we can be a speaker that we never even end up speaking at, right? Because I want to make them happy. This is how this happens. I know because I work with them. But most of us, with the baby boomers, we just grew up. They had 3 television channels that they were watching. So everything that was said to them on the news. This is the tonight. And actually, this story just came out where now obesity is it. They consumed information differently than us. Let's keep going.
gut hormones, which can affect and give those patients an ability to treat the disease of obesity.
Yeah, let's talk more about that change in thinking, because in the past, obesity was treated as a lifestyle choice or a failure of will. So we're looking at it differently now. How is that, as a doctor, how has that changed things for you?
Well, you know, as a result of the success we've had with weight loss surgery, at first I think we thought weight loss surgery was successful because we could just limit how much people could eat, help them with their diet. We now know that the operations that we do actually affect gut hormones. And it was that knowledge of knowing that that was what was leading to weight loss that allowed people to say, okay, well, if we could maybe raise GLP levels, maybe we could also help. So it's given us a better understanding of the disease of obesity. I mean, I tell patients now, it's kind of like, you have cancer, we know, as a disease. It requires a treatment. It might be chemotherapy, it might be a simple operation, it might be a complex operation, or it might be a combination. And I think the thing is true also of obesity. It cannot be fixed with just a lifestyle change or a diet. It actually requires an aggressive treatment program. And for some patients, that may be something as simple as a medication. But for people who have significant weight to lose, they may need something more, maybe an operation or a complex operation or a combination of that.
And I assume when people come to see you, you have to take a look at all those things with that individual person to find out. Okay, so what's the important message you have for patients suffering from obesity?
Well, I think for patients who need to lose 30, 40, 50 pounds, a GLP is probably the most effective program that there is. But for patients who need to lose 75, 100 pounds or more, a GLP is not going to be the right medication for you. It means you're going to have to take that medication for life. We don't know the long-term ramifications of being on that medication for life. It's effective in about 60 or 70%. There's some significant side effects. So for patients who have more than, let's say, 70 pounds to lose, really a surgical treatment is probably the best option. The good news is surgery can now be done as an outpatient, and most people are back to pretty normal activities within a week or two.
Incredible. So the most important thing is to ask, right?
Ask which one's the right treatment for me.
Yeah. Dr. Schramm, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Wellness with wood. This is insane. This is insane. I really feel like one day we'll look at this and like we should be able to, like, I don't know, sue them for something like this. I don't even say. The man said 30 to 50 pounds, GLP is the best option, 100 pounds or more surgery. How about working out? How about walking? What did he say when he said, did you pay attention to what he said when, for a patient that's 70 pounds or over, this doesn't make sense because they would just have to continue taking the medicine. So pretty much the 30 to 50 pounds people, they're going to have to continue to take this medicine for a while. And I guess what's the difference between 50 pounds and 60 pounds? You're over 70 pounds and you're going to have to continue to take the medicine for a lot longer. No, they just want to sell you something that can pay them quicker. A surgery is going to pay that doctor quick. They get a big lump check. That's why they want to. This is the world that we're living in. This is the world that we're living in, where they're really pushing this nonsense. And how many times do you see these people, they get on these medicines, and it's funny, somebody wrote the marshmallow generation. You see these people, and I'm not making fun of anybody, it just is what it is. You see these people, they get on these GLPs and all this other stuff, and they still look like they lost, but they just look smaller. Like it looks like I don't know, when I do the thumbnails, I don't know if y'all have ever used CapCut or anything like that, but you know how you like shrink a photo? Like it's the same person. They got the same body dimensions, but it's just smaller almost. Like it doesn't even look like they're in shape more. It just looks like they're just as flabby, so to say, and have the same body structure, but it's just kind of like somebody just went like this, but it's the same. You're not developing the right habits. The beauty of working out is the fact that you're training your heart. You're training your body. There's certain things that happen in your body when you're working out that create a reset for you. That's sweating. Sweating is important. You're getting rid of the toxins. All of these things that come along with working out, these doctors totally disregard when it comes to these GLPs and these surgeries. You're robbing people of the actual benefits that they get from truly working out and just giving them a pill. But Serena said it's not a shortcut. It's just it's just science. And like I said, she's using her platform very irresponsibly, because part of sharing a message, something that I have to be aware of, something that obviously somebody of Serena Williams' stature, she has to be extremely aware of, is how the people are going to receive the message, understanding who you're sending this to and how they're going to receive it. The majority of the people Serena knows are not athletes like her. The majority of the people, whether Serena's actually eating healthy and working out, and for whatever reason, let the doctor tell it, it's the disease of being obese, they still can't lose weight. Most people just can't lose weight because they don't feel like working out, because they eat terrible stuff. They eat fast food, they eat chips and stuff. They eat it's very simple. It's very simple. And all this pacifying that we do, it just goes, maybe this is just another reason why, and I attribute all this stuff maybe unfairly to liberals and Democrats, but it's all just based on this mindset of victimhood, of just softness. Like it's just it's just very hard for me to embrace. Very hard for me to embrace. Oh shoot, it's 10 o'clock. All right, it's 10 o'clock. Was going to damn, we didn't even get to this BB interview. This is what I'll do. I'll figure out a time for us to do the BB interview. We'll either review that on Monday or we will review that over the weekend. It's a long Monday, so maybe that'll be a cool show for Monday. That's a long Monday. It's a long weekend, so maybe that'll be a cool show for Monday. But hold on, everybody that's not typically here, this is the most important part of the show. This is the most important part of the show. Everybody that always chimes in or always checks out the show, you are aware of this. Vouch for it. This is the most important part of the show. So at the end of every show, we take at least 45 seconds, sometimes 60 seconds on shows where we're discussing some really heavy topics, but we take 45 seconds to just clear our mind, meditate, manifest, do your breath work. We like to say, feel every exhale as releasing all the negative energy, all the things, the bad thoughts in your mind that are holding you back from you accomplishing whatever it is you want to accomplish. All of these things. Get this doctor out of your head that's telling you that you got to take GLP-1s, you got to lose weight, that you have a disease. As soon as they play with you mentally and tell you that you have a disease, it's like that whole pre-diabetic stuff. Stop telling people that they're pre-diabetic. You're just scaring them into becoming diabetic. Like all this stuff is a spiritual mental game. But like I said, we're releasing all the negative energy on every exhale, and every inhale is we're inhaling positive energy. So we're actually feeling that. If you're in a safe place, close your eyes. Meditation is big for us. Meditation is big for us. And it's not always hey, I'm going to take 30 minutes out of my day and just sit there and be still. A lot of us don't have time for that. A lot of times you're meditating while you're up, you're listening to music on your way on the bus, whatever it may be. Just being still at a certain point in time can be very beneficial for us. So 45 seconds, give yourself whatever it is that you need. If you're just tuning into the show for the first time, every week we set out to make this our greatest week ever. So hopefully on Fridays, we like to make sure that we're in a position to compete and win. Just like if we were in sports, we want to put ourselves in a position to accomplish our goal and win. Maybe you want to meditate on something that's going to allow you to have a successful day and win the week. Whatever it is that you need to meditate on. A lot of times it's just not focus on and fixating with all the negative aspects of the things that we may have called out on the show, and understanding that what makes us these godly beings is we all have free will to make a change and to be the change that we want to see represented in the world, no matter how cruel, evil, chaotic the world is. All right. We all have the ability to work together in order to elevate it. And all we have to do ourselves as individuals is be that change. I'm talking too much. 45 seconds. If you're in a safe place, close your eyes or leave them open. Do it if it's best for you. Remember, every exhale, release a negative. Every inhale, inhaling the positive. The woo-saw. All right, 45 seconds starting now. All right, one last exhale, getting rid of all the rest of that negative, all that last bit of negative hate and energy, everybody hating on you. Get it off. And inhaling nothing but positive energy. So now we're just recirculating that positive energy. Yo, I'm going to keep it real. So as I was closing my eyes, and y'all got me amped. I can't front. Y'all got me amped. Maybe that's, I don't know if y'all can feel the energy, but I'm just excited, yo. I'm just excited. And this video may get flagged for what I'm about to do. Matter of fact, I probably shouldn't do it. Matter of fact, I'm not going to do it. But matter of fact, it is what it is. I don't even care. That's just the energy that we're on. Hold up. Let me see if I could. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, this ain't even it. Hold up. I see. That's a sign. Never mind. No, we're not doing it. All I was thinking about is that Meek Mill. I used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this. So I had to. All I was thinking about was the intro. That's the energy that I've been on all week. Like, yo, everything is moving up, bro. Everything is moving up. Get rid of all that negative weight that's holding you back. Positivity. That's the energy that we're on. If anybody's bringing negativity in your life, help them maybe address it. But if they're stuck on that, move on. We're all about building and moving forward. What we come here to do for the newcomers to the OG network is elevate on purpose. Now, when we say on purpose, we don't mean just with intent. We mean elevating on your capital P, your purpose, right? What is your purpose in life? So we want to elevate, align with that. All right. So we want to elevate by challenging ourselves, to raising our standards, to become the best leaders we can become that are needed now more than ever, as well as to grow into the people that we need to grow into in order to accomplish these audacious, amazing, huge goals that we have for ourselves. All right. The ones that you tell people your goals and they're looking at you kind of funny, hating on you, like, who you think you are to accomplish that? Those are the goals that we set for ourselves. So in order to do those things, we have to raise our standards in other aspects of our life in order to equip us with the tools, the skills, and the mindset needed to follow through and win in those situations. All right. Strength and honor, onward and upward, get to the bag. Now, when I say get to the bag, I don't mean get to the money. That may be part of it. But what I really mean are all the things that align with us living in our purpose as we strive for what we like to call purposeful abundance. All right. If you ever read the book, The Alchemist, then that's what we like to reference when we say our purpose. What is the impact that we're going to have on this world? What is going to be our personal legend? All right. What's our personal legend? What is the legacy that we're going to leave behind? Let's not just do the bare minimum. Let's really live. All right. Let's really live. Let's take risks. Let's take chances on certain things that scare us, all these different things. Let's become bigger than the person that we've told ourselves that we can become. Let's become the most in shape we can become, the best from a mental health standpoint, have the best soul, be the best brother, sister, be the best mother, father, be the best son, daughter that we can become. All right, let's just be better human beings, because that's the goal, to push things forward. So the things that are in your bag, you got to decide what's in your bag. And these are all the things that we focus on throughout these are the disciplines that we're going to focus on. We say the little things, but obviously they accumulate to the big things, the things that we focus on throughout the day, throughout the hour, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year, that are going to accumulate and make sure that we're aligned properly, right? Align with the proper trajectory to live in our purpose. All right. And make that impact on the world. So the things that I like to focus on that are in my bag: peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and in everything we do, integrity. And something that I've been adding on the last couple of weeks is balance. Balance is one of the hardest things to achieve in life. That's why typically we usually just go one side or another. Let's have the balance. All right. We need more balanced individuals, more well-rounded individuals in every aspect of life, mind, body, soul. It's all connected. I saw a few people. Yo, what? Freddie Barber, truth and love in that order. That's yo. Hold up, y'all showing love on a Friday. Chris said for it. I hope you are well, my friend. You are a voice for peace and positivity, and it's much appreciated. Yo, y'all. So for the people that always chime in, that always tune in, like my big bro Steve, and like my family and friends that y'all always chime in. My professor, Vons, Bez, my parents, Maya. I know I'm missing people out. Antonice, Aunt, and of course, Unc and Skeeg. for those, they know how much this stuff means to me because we've been doing this for years now, at least almost three, maybe 4 years. And we're just pushing the message. We're just pushing the message. So everything is appreciated. All the support is appreciated. First and foremost, just y'all tuning in. That's the biggest support. You know what I mean? So appreciate y'all engaging in these conversations because who am I? You feel me? Who am I? You know, so we all just trying to figure it out in life. Hopefully we can figure it out together because I think that's when we're at our best. So on that note, appreciate y'all. Love y'all. And I'll see y'all soon. All right. We typically do our shows Monday and Friday. We're going back to the Monday and Friday just because we're doing a bunch of other stuff. But Monday and Friday, 8 a.m. I'll see y'all soon. Like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. I'm grateful.